December 24th. I worked that morning and drove long to get a warm meal amongst the cold of the afternoon. I told the men at the counter Merry Christmas, and I drove out to the bridge on a clear and snowy day. I put $40 in my pocket and went to see a man I once knew by the name Don in a half attempt for tenderness on Christmas Eve, and only on Christmas Eve, of course. I couldn't see him on Christmas, and only for a few fleeting moments. As I approached the bridge where I met men named Don and Frank Lee, I saw a woman standing in the gray cold whom I had never seen. She was small and her straw blonde hair poked out of her black beanie. She wore a white medical boot and limped with every step. She meekly smiled at me and waved nervously as I approached. "How you doing?" she said in the voice of a caring mother. I didn't much care to talk about myself, and I even felt ashamed to do so with this woman. I asked how she was. "Honestly, I'm really cold out here, man," she said in a shivering voice aged by cigarette smoke long since past and many a night spent with tensions held high. The blistering cold I couldn't doubt for a second. I asked for her name and she told me, yet I forgot not too long after. As I gave her the $40, she held my hand and asked me if I was sure and able to give her this money. Her dry and cold skin warmed with mine, and I felt a delicacy in her being. Of course she could have it, and of course I would be fine without it. I saw her jitter as she said thank you with all of her wrinkly face and her spinning shoulders and her black winter coat. I asked her if she wanted a hug, and the yes of her reply jumped out of her throat. She hugged me with almost all the strength that her little body could muster, and I felt that the rest of her fleeting vigor held back a dam of tears within her bright blue eyes. Stuttering blindly, she told me that life had been so hard for her lately. She had lost her job on account of her broken leg, the reason for her boot. This all came to be because a man had hit her with his car not too long ago. Her mouth and eyes drooped like a puppy as she spoke, and I held her hand as I drank in each one of her quivering words. Little by little, cars pulled over with dollars held out in the air. I ran over to each one and handed the money to the woman who accepted the alms with melancholy. In disbelief, she told me that people were doing this because I was here with her, and that I was her angel. Lacking the strength to refuse, I smiled a sad smile and said, "Oh, honey," as I hugged her once more. "Thank you so much," she said to me, and I replied with an "of course." I knew I had to leave this woman, yet I didn't want to. I didn't know how to tell her I was leaving, and I pushed that fateful speech minutes away with small talk until there was no more pushing to be done. I told her I had presents to wrap, and we joked about what a bad job I was about to do. We hugged goodbye, and I trudged through guilt and shame back to my car with my head hung low. A pensive Merry Christmas escaped my lips when I left her. As I fell into my driver's seat, I felt that my toes had gone numb, and my hands were stiff and useless as I struggled to turn my keys to start the engine. I thought of the woman as I cranked the heater as hot as it could blow, and I felt a pit form in my spirit that would never leave me while I listened to Dean Martin sing "I'll Be Home for Christmas" as I drove mile after lonely mile to my front door.